What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now that we're back from the King of the Hammers, it's time to go back in time a little bit and edit through some of the build footage that I never got around to posting. So in this video, we are all over the place from the last build video, which was the coilovers and bypasses, our first install of those. Kind of catch you guys up to speed on how we went from that to a finished race rig. Now this video is gonna be all over the place, lots of projects, and we probably still have 2 or 3 more build videos to really complete the entire 4500 JK King of the Hammers build video series. So sit back, enjoy the video, see you guys at the end. So we have our backing plate figured out for our steering. Mocked it up this morning. It's just 2 L brackets channeled. Front side we've already started tacking everything onto, but we made a little template on the back of our steering box here, cut it out, mocked up our steering box, traced it on this back side of the frame, held up our template, marked our holes, drilled through the frame nice and level, and now it's time to cut out with the hole saw some big holes all the way through the frame and both of these 1/4 inch plates. Actually, that might be, that's 3/16 1/4 inch, doesn't really matter. Either way, we've got to blow through all of that so we can put our 1-inch DOM tubing right here through the frame, welded on both sides, flush on this side, overhanging on this side, and then we can mount our steering box. So we stretched it way forward than stock, and we'll measure it here in a bit, but everything was happy wherever this is. So Mike is ready to go. Let's get the camera down and get this box in place. So we have the back 2 bolts for our steering box drilled through the frame. Got our tubing sleeve right there. We're gonna weld this all up after, but at least now we can physically put the box on the frame and see if everything is lined up. And it should suck in and suck these flush on the back side so we can tack them and then tackle the front. So at least throw the box on there and see if it's, you know, close. There's a lot of, if your level's off when you drill through, you're gonna have to open up the holes a little bit. We had one bottom corner just a tad, like 1/8 of an inch. We had to move down just to get everything to line up. Trying to avoid the bolts being crooked as best as possible. That's it, it's on the lip. So when we first mocked it up, we put a little sliver of metal here along the bottom. That way whenever it sat down, it would always sit in the same position. So that worked. That was Mike's idea. Very smart. And now we just make sure, yeah, we should be able to send. We already have these holes marked. We traced the loops out, used the template, marked them, and now we'll do the same thing, send the holes through. So our holes are drilled. We have our pieces of tubing through. They're tacked on the backside. We need to make these flush in the end, but I also want to hit them with some weld spots and then grind it down. Now we just got to grind all that down. Today's project is tackling the radiator on the Jeep. So there's a lot to catch you guys up to speed on. Clearly, we already have the radiator and it's already halfway mounted in the Jeep. There was a lot of figuring out how we're gonna mount this, and we're still not done yet. So it's time to catch you guys up to speed. So in a race vehicle scenario, there's two options: put the radiator in the back, put the radiator in the front. So the front is going to be the easiest option, just like any other vehicle, off-road vehicle. You find one that would fit your vehicle's dimensions and drop right in, or custom make it. But the issue once you start getting into the rocks and a rock crawler slash race Jeep is up front here, we start drastically losing the amount of space that we can fit a radiator up here. So it would have to be a smaller radiator. And secondly, this is a very easily damaged area. So if you run into a rock, if we roll over and a rock crushes through the hood, you can blow your radiator. Back in the back, it's much better protected and we can fit a larger radiator. So that was kind of the reasoning we went with a rear mounted radiator like this. Also, when we're racing, we have to have a neck restraint. So you're not gonna be able to turn around and look out the back anyway. So we're not losing visibility. We're not really losing cargo area because a race Jeep, we're not gonna have a rear seat. So this was kind of no-brainer to run this setup. So then headed over to cbrperformance.com, found a radiator that would fit. This is the 1014 dual pass, dual row. It looks a lot thicker than that, but I'm sure they have their reasonings, probably strength. But this is a massive radiator with two 16 fans. These put out like 4,700 cubic feet per minute, and we ordered it with -20 lines, or actually the inlet and outlet already have welded bungs for -20. So we got their radiator mount kit, clamps up top, and then two bottom pads. So typically they're designed to weld right onto your roll cage tubing, like 1.5 inch. So we opened that up for 2, and instead of running a whole nother bar across for this mount, all we made was 2 legs over here with some long tabs, put in a weld washer so we can use some bolts here for accessory mounting, but put some tube inside and then welded our bottom base plates to this. So this way it kicks off the main B pillar, sets our angle, and that is still hot. So those are gonna angle the radiator back just for a little more clearance here, for more airflow to get up to it. But this is a polar setup, so it's gonna pull fresh air through and push it out that way. So hopefully we won't bake to death. But at this point, we just gotta figure out how to square this thing up, get the angle set right, and mount the radiator. So we've been at it for a few hours this morning. I think we finally found a happy place. Actually, there's a bracket right there. This is kind of how the wing setup works. So we got our 2 drop down to here, drop down to the bracket right there. That one's cooling off. We're gonna put it back in, tack weld it, then pull this one off, weld it, and tack weld it, then move up to the top. Well, I've been using this Weld-Aid stuff, got it on Amazon, but it's mostly for like a nozzle, keeps the spatter from hitting your nozzle. But what I've seen is it still lays really pretty welds over it. Like there's no issue with it. So you just spray down the area you're about to weld and you won't have anything stick. So it's been extremely helpful for times like this when I don't want stuff splattered all over the place. So with this side lightly tacked, we stepped back, made sure everything was square, and this side is held in with the strap. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and mark where this sits so we can put it back and get pretty close, because I still gotta weld all that down there. So we'll position this. So the top mount is welded in, everything is level. I'm super happy with the positioning, everything's squared up, but I think we can get this just a little bit tighter. So what this does is say the bottom is just supporting the radiator right there. These pads are super slick, but they also do absorb a lot of vibration. So they do kind of cushion. The top one is what, whenever you suck it in, is what kind of clamps and forces down the radiator. So it took us a few tries to get that upper mount happy, because what you can't do is assemble it all tight, like suck in all these bolts, assemble it, and then weld it, because there's nothing to actually have an interference fit and squeeze into the radiator. So we had to mock it up, position this plate, kind of leave one tack in there and mess with the angle of that plate where it fit good on the cope right there, but also would allow this bracket to suck in. But at this point, it would be time to pull the radiator off and fully burn those mounts in. But what I noticed is there is still a little, you really have to push, but there is a little bit of movement side to side, and you can see it right there. Now we really do have to push and put some pressure on it, and I think adding a tab off the side would fix that, but I started to notice that over here, this pad is completely flush. It's nice and level. And over here on the driver pad, we do have a small gap. So you can see, hopefully on the GoPro, up here towards the top, let me zoom in. Hopefully you can see up towards the top there, we can see that little air gap. So what that means is that this bracket is only out about 1 or 2 degrees from that one. I do think that if we cut these tacks off and rotate it up, we can get a better fitment here, which might really add more rigidity to this mount, and the radiator might not slide back and forth. But whenever we do that, because this is on an angle, if we pivot this up some, it's also gonna push the lower part of the radiator in, which increases the angle. It's also going to push it up, which would make this come up some. So what we're gonna have to do to alleviate both of those issues is rotate this bracket up, but also shave these down about a 1/16 of an inch. That way we don't push it out anymore. So we're messing with a lot of angles, you know, your X and Y axis. And people always, man, I remember back in high school, I was like, man, when are you ever gonna use like geometry and trigonometry in real life? Now what I also could do is just get another piece of rubber and build up that surface right there. And I think that would probably work, and that would be able to put some pad down there and move on to the next project, but it's not exactly the right way to do it. And I want this to be kind of a showcase of my work. And I want it to be done right the first time. So what we're gonna do, since it's tack welded, is just break those tacks, get this perfectly in place. But that is an example of just one thing that happens about 3 or 4 times a day. And however you handle little situations like this all throughout the build is going to kind of dictate the final outcome of a build. So if you just start like, I can make it work, it'll be okay, and you start doing that all over the place, you start creating weak points, failure points, and for the most part, almost everything has been kind of meticulously gone through and kind of finished out exactly how it should be. So. So the batteries are going to sit back here using this frame crossover piece. We're gonna have to make one more. So I'm gonna tie a piece of 1-inch tubing across these little body mounts here, which is lower. So our angle will be pitched back the battery box, and hopefully it'll fit under our spare tire there. It's time to grab our little piece of 1-inch tubing over here, pull that out of there, measure, cut it in the chop saw, and get it burnt in. Beautiful. 0 side to side movement. So I went ahead and put together some weld washers. They're threaded to 5/16 by 24, fine thread. But just like that, put it on a, ooh, that one's still hot. Put them on tabs, put the battery tray up here right there. This the Barnes 4-wheel drive tray comes with, I think it's 1/4 by 20 hardware, but we're stepping it up to the 5/16. So I'm thinking 3 of these tabs right here should be more than enough just to hold the battery tray to side to side, because the weight is going to be on these pieces of tubing, not the tabs. But they are tacked up from underneath, so we're going to go ahead and weld these in place and then mock up this last one, get our battery tray in there. Ah, look who showed up.
I'm going to put it back in place and...
Hot, hot, hot. Here you go. Camera girl.
What do I need to do?
I'm about to weld. They haven't been able to see my cool welding moves because I've been recording. Like my sweet, the way I come in and do tricks with it. Who's ever seen that, you know? Cha-ching! So now you gotta throw the tray up there and put this last one right here, or wherever it sits.
Sweet.
Well, that's about it for this video, guys. It is already long enough, and we still probably have 2 or 3 more build videos coming before we wrap this entire series up. Thanks for watching. Like always, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions about any of the projects we did on this Jeep, go down to the comments below and let me know. So stay tuned for the next few build videos, and of course, the race footage should be coming soon. I'm waiting to get just a little more content together from other people before I make the video. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be really cool. And hey, hopefully we'll get this Jeep fixed all back up and go down to Crossbar and do some trail testing with it, you know, in a non-race scenario. I just wanna go hit the trails, have some fun with it, take Cassie and the kids and let them enjoy it as well, because we've put so many hours and, you know, time and effort into this rig. It's gonna be fun just taking it out and have some fun with it. Plus, I know Cassie really wants to drive it. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Until the next video.